Winning on the road is never easy, and especially when it's a team that you have played before, but that gives you extra motivation going into the game. Well, this week, the Bay Area Panthers got a win on the road. Welcome in to Bay Area Panthers Weekly. Once again, I am Mike Pawlawski, your host, former Cal quarterback, former Demons quarterback, and more importantly, the color analyst for the Panthers. And this week was a great victory on the road because coming back against a team that you lost early in the season and finding a way to win big on the road counts towards playoffs. We'll talk about that coming up. Right now, head coach Rob Keefe is here to talk about the win versus the San Antonio Gunslingers. And coach, 55-26, when it was pretty close at half. Tell me how the game went. Tell me what worked for you guys.
Yeah, look, I think young guys are really stepping up. I think the team is really coming together, and I know I talk about that a lot all week, or all year. But this is a week that it really shined, right? It really showed new players that were stepping up, maybe players that didn't have a lot of touchdowns before, or maybe not a lot of playing time. But you saw some new faces. You saw some new guys getting in. And you're really seeing, I think, the depth of our team. So really proud of that. Yeah, to go on the road and to play a team that there was a little payback, on our mind. I don't like to use the word revenge because it's professional football and, those guys get paid too. But, to lose to San Antonio the first game of the season, that was tough for a young guy, a young team that I think felt that, we should have won the game, but we didn't, right? And we started the season 0-1. So to go back down to their place and win convincingly, it made our team feel very good.
You talked about some of the new faces that we're seeing this week. Trayvon Alexander, he'll be a guest later on in the show, but he comes out 5 catches, 3 touchdowns. He has really established himself. And so talk about him and what he adds to the offense.
Well, and I tell you what, he'll be the first to tell you, right? Just an accountable guy. He felt that maybe there was a drop ball that he had in that under a minute scenario the first time we played San Antonio that could have put us in maybe a 3rd and 2 situation, could have got us a first down, perhaps win the football game. And so for him to come back full circle, to go to San Antonio, he's no longer a rookie, right? We played 8 games. He's learning. I mean, Coach Windsor, Coach Gray, the offensive side of the ball is establishing him, as the wing. He's in high motion a lot. I mean, we're really putting a lot on his shoulders and really worked with him consistently on just his confidence level and his ability. I mean, what a great physical specimen. And now he's starting to kind of put the mental with the physical. And to have 3 touchdowns, versus San Antonio team that really prides themselves on their defense, I couldn't be more proud of Trayvon and just to see how far he's come in just such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I talk to these guys all the time because I remember what it was like when I first came into the Arena League. I had no idea on angles or anything else. What's the normal learning curve for a guy coming into the indoor league and how long it takes them to understand kind of the difference in angles, and for receivers especially, how they have to use their route and use space in order to be open and to have patience, which is the biggest piece?
Oh, great question. I think you're starting to see it now. I think you're starting to see these guys blossom. It normally takes in that 7 to 9 to maybe 10 week range. I mean, if you have to add the preseason, right, in the training camp there, and we're right at that stage. We're 8 games in, plus, the 2 weeks of training camp. So you're looking at about a 10-week time period, and you're seeing these guys really start to blossom. And that's where Coach Windsor, offensive coordinator, who was an amazing receiver himself, and then Coach Gray, who was an amazing receiver himself in the Arena Football Leagues. I asked him, I said, hey, man, what do you think? And it's like, Coach, they're still learning. They're still getting it. They're only going to get better. And that's, we have a lot of young guys. And so there's a lot of patience that comes with that as a head coach, because we went away of a lot of established veteran receivers to teach younger players who we might have felt had a bigger upside in the long run. And so, this is, a league of 1-year contracts. So the patience can only go so far, but you're starting to see them blossom, and our offense is really clicking right now. And it's a direct correlation of these receivers starting to really pick it up and understand these angles.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I remember it, Eddie Brown was my receiver, Antonio Brown's father, for the people who don't recognize the name, but was voted the greatest player in the history of arena football. And the thing about him was, he was 4'7" all day long. He wasn't super fast, but he was so patient and knew exactly how to use high motion, and then had the greatest hands I've ever seen anywhere. He would just absolutely lock onto the ball. But the patience is the big thing for those receivers. And so that learning curve can be pretty steep early on for these guys. But you're seeing it, Trayvon Alexander coming through that side of it. Another guy on defense who will be on the show later on, Frankie West Jr. Talk about Frankie, because he was a special teams guy early on. He got the big touchdown versus, I believe it was San Diego, right? And so then he comes out, and now he's contributing on defense. And, you say a guy never loses a spot because of injuries, and we'd all like to believe that that's true, but oftentimes injuries provide opportunities for players.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, Joe Fouché unfortunately went down, and, he'll be back. I mean, he's a strong, tough minded dude, and, has been in these adverse situations before. And then Frankie making the most of his opportunity. He was a guy that, he was battling as the fifth, the sixth defensive back, was contributing on special teams, and then had an opportunity to get some playing time, and he's made the most of it. And Frankie has an amazing story. I mean, he did some damage in college. I mean, he is a very, very good defensive back. One of a great stats of Frankie is in his entire career as a defensive back in college, he did not have one pass interference or one holding call. I mean,
That's
that's
crazy.
phenomenal. I mean, Frankie is the future for as long as he wants to play in this league. And, obviously I don't want to lose him. I don't want to let him go. But Frankie's one of these guys that you could see play at a higher level just because of the experience, his knowledge, his understanding. I mean, he was one of these guys that picked it up immediately. And just based on his college tape, I told the coaches, I said, this guy's going to be awesome for us. And he's contributed in so many ways, special teams, touchdowns. And now he's getting that experience, starting as a corner in this game. And it's only going to go up for him.
Yeah, and a guy who has a ton of experience. Obviously, his father played as well. We'll talk to him about that coming up. And so being a coach's kid always helps you have the great mindset as a player to understand the game. And I believe Frankie was the highest rated player at his position in the FCS.
I'm telling you, what a great pedigree. And exactly, I mean, coming as the son of a coach and not to give it away, right? But, his father, who had a lot of experience in indoor football league, I knew exactly what I was getting in a player like Frankie, and so happy to have him here. And him and Trayvon, just great character dudes. I'm just so proud of these guys to see the success that they're having, because it's starting to match, not only their work ethic, but their character as well.
Yeah, and I tell you every single week, but for the people at home, the Panthers are a really easy team to like in terms of people. The guys are just really good guys, really energetic, entertaining, really intelligent. So all those things, outside of being a really good football team, they're also just a great team to like and a great team to get behind. And so we talked about on the air this week, Kevin Richardson and myself, it's a great team of guys. So if you don't love it for anything else, love it for that. These guys love the game. They love to play. They're intelligent. They have high character. And that's a beautiful thing to be part of that team. That's enough. Okay, I've showered enough praise on these guys. Talk about the game this past week. You're in San Antonio. It's pretty close at half, and you find a way to get the ball back right before half to go for the score. So talk about managing the clock and how important that is and managing possessions.
Yeah, it's something that we've worked on all year, and I'm so happy that we had the opportunity to do this. So, going back to that situation, it's a pretty close game, right? It was in that 20-19 range, and so it's very close, back and forth, back and forth. How are we going to separate? Well, we knew because we won the coin toss, we were going to get the ball back first in the second half. So the first thing you want to do is be the team that scores first in the second half. That's one possession right there. But to double up on the team, you want to be the team that scores last before the half as well. And there's your kind of 2-for-1, very basketball-like possession. And so with that being said, we go up, 27-19. They end up scoring a very late touchdown. And then we had an opportunity to figure out what we were going to do after we scored. Like, what was going to happen here? Did we want to kick deep? Well, they could have been the team to score last. Well, we wanted to manage the clock. After we scored, we then onside kicked. And we onside kicked them, putting them in a situation where they could not have an opportunity to get any more first downs. We wanted to utilize all of our timeouts. And unfortunately for us, even though they did score, we still had one timeout remaining. And so here was the situation. We ended up with 31 seconds left, one timeout. We had the ball probably on the 17-yard line, minus 17-yard line. Obviously, the field is only 50 yards. So, we had a very good amount of time left remaining on the clock that we felt we had, and not too far to go. And the offense executed perfectly. I think we scored maybe with about 6 seconds left to go in the half, which was awesome, thus being the team that scored last. And so, yeah, I couldn't be more proud of the offense and more proud of the team for working those situations. Everybody in this league knows it. It's just a matter of how you're able to do it. Who can then spike the ball after you get a first down because the clock stops after a first down? Who's able to kill the clock? Who's able to get out of bounds? Who's able to manage the timeouts? And so the players completely trust us. They're the ones out there making the plays. They start understanding the game, and it's just getting better and better as we go. And you see the teams that, from a playoff standpoint, you'll see those teams that are really going to separate themselves in those kind of ways. And very fortunate we have a lot of great coaches that are teaching this on our side of the football. And, I'm happy that it worked out for us.
Yeah, it's so important, the nuance of the game and the indoor game, right? In the big field, you kick that thing off, you play defense and you say, hey, we just scored, we're going to go in last. But when you're on the little field, boy, when you're indoors, you can score in a hurry and you don't want to let somebody bleed it out. So I just absolutely love it when you kicked the onside. I'm like, yes, they are going for blood right here. That's awesome. And so that was great to see. Second half, defense came alive, created some takeaways. They had a young quarterback there who showed up really good in the first game, but still only, 9 days in as a quarterback for that team, Collazo. And so talk about what you were doing to create those takeaways.
Yeah, and then with a young quarterback, I mean, all respect for him, right? I mean, you have to respect your opponent. But, we felt that, he hasn't seen a defense like ours before. And so we knew that we were saving some things from a schematic standpoint that we wanted to kind of open up in the second half. He might have thought some things were there that were not eventually going to be there. We were just kind of saving it. And then also, too, we knew they were, they scored on fourth down, had a great couple of plays that we felt like, hey, luck was kind of in their favor, but it was just a matter of time before luck ran out. And then also, too, I always say this, the best defense is having a great offense. I mean, we were putting up points, we weren't getting stopped. And so now you're putting a lot of pressure back on their offense to kind of keep up with our offense, thus putting them in some positions that were ultimately going to force some things. And so our guys came up big. I mean, Jonathan Ross had a great game, 4 total tackles, an interception, a sack, a pass breakup. I mean, guys were all over the football. BJ, Telfalele, Mac linebacker had an interception. The DBs were hunting and pass breaking up all night, and the defensive line was getting after it. And so you combine that with the scheme, then we were starting to shut them down. They only scored 7 points in the second half. So, we really felt like we adapted and adjusted well. And then again, our offense didn't get stopped, which was, exactly what you wanted. So really, really proud of those guys in the second half to really come alive to open up that game.
Yeah, I mean, offense was really good. They were perfect in the first half, right? I think you scored on every single drive. In the second half, minus the one interception, were really good as well. And so a great game overall offensively. Now I'm going to do something, and I know coaches don't love to do it, but I'm going to say the P words, right? The playoffs are coming up, and things are starting to shape up. You guys are number 2 in the West, and you're playing well, and you were blow for blow with the Arizona Rattlers, who's number 1 right now. And so what do you start thinking about the playoffs? When do you start kind of working on that?
Well, respect to all the teams, we do every week, and that's not a knock on any of these teams. I mean, we know we're chasing Arizona. I mean, Arizona's a very veteran, heavy team, and they're great, well coached, and we know that we play them again in the future, and so we're chasing them right now, right? They're 7-1, we're 6-2. You have Vegas and San Diego knotted up at 4-4, and then there's some teams, right? I mean, with Tucson, they can make a run, and so halfway through the season at 6-2, we feel good with where we're at. We're content. We would love to have won a couple of those games earlier. We're about 3 or 4 plays, away from being 8-0. But hey, we're 6-2 for a reason. So hopefully we learn from those mistakes. But every game counts, and so we really believe that. And I think the goal is to not only make the playoffs, but to be able to host throughout. And then you got to take it one game at a time. And so last year we had the number 1 seed. The year before we had the number 2 seed. So we're always going to be battling, and we know that the cast of characters are going to be there at the end. And so I know these teams are hunting, and we're always going to get everybody's best. So we just have to keep it calm. We just have to play one game at a time. Don't go too far ahead, but know that every game does matter ultimately for the ending seeding and for the ending records.
No doubt. The better position you can put yourself in for those home field advantage games is huge. Make people travel to you, always better. And that said, you have a bye week this week. I know that you traditionally give guys the week off during the bye week. But then when you come back, it is Sluggers Row. You've got Tulsa coming in, very good football team, June 7th. You've got Las Vegas Nighthawks on the road, June 14th. You got Arizona coming up to your place after that, June 22nd. And so what do you do to prepare for those games coming up? Because that is literally, that is Sluggers Row of the West right there.
Yeah, and we feel like we're battle tested, we really do. But you're right. It's like instead of, looking too far ahead, it's just one game at a time. And you're right. We got Tulsa in our sights, and Tulsa has us in our sights. Fortunately, we get to rest up. That's a really big thing at this stage of the year. So I'm really happy that we have the bye week at the time that we do. But, if you look at the coaches poll, take it for what it's worth. Arizona got ranked number 1. We got ranked number 2. Tulsa ranked number 4. We're going to start playing some teams here, whether they be home or away. This is going to really test not only our mental, but our physical capabilities of what we learned so far. And so hopefully everybody comes out of the bye week refreshed and recouped, and we're able to take it one game at a time and go 1-0 all the way through the regular season here.
Yeah, and Tulsa, you're going outside of your division, but then you come back with Vegas and Arizona, right? You control your playoff picture by winning in your conference. And so if you can win in the West, and that sets you up really good. Coach, I appreciate you coming on here tonight, late night tonight for the show, but don't forget, bye week this week, and then Tulsa Oilers coming in June 7th, 6:05 SAP Center. Get down there, support the Panthers. It's a really good football team. If you can't, our pregame, Kevin Richardson and myself, kicks off right here, 5:50. Can be our 10:50, of course. We're going to have Trayvon Alexander coming up. We're going to have Frankie West Jr. coming up. So don't go away. We'll have more Bay Area Panthers weekly after this.